So let's talk for a moment about how do we bridge this divide. We're going to get some help from the federal government through the American Reinvestment and Recovery Act. Up to $21 billion is going to go to physicians who will adopt EMR systems. This will help supposedly make not only more records go online and available to patients online, but we hope to make them portable so that you as a patient, when you go from one doctor to the next, your records will follow you electronically. There are some real obstacles to this, and I want to say right here in a slight political statement, I think the stimulus package is and continuing to be a good thing in many sectors of our economy. I do have some questions about the wisdom of this particular investment, and that is there are so many difficulties in getting truly portable health records, and much of the reason is that basically EMR systems are databases, and databases are essentially like spreadsheets, or they're like electronic filing cabinets with different drawers and different folders in them. And the way you organize your filing cabinet is going to be very different from somebody else. For many, many years, EMR software developers have had a very strong vested interest in protecting their way of doing it, not letting anybody else see it. Because once they have a customer, once they have a physician with any number of thousands of patient records, that physician is almost a data hostage. It's very difficult for that physician to end his service with that company and start over again, move the data from the prior company's software to the new company's software. So there is terrific competition, there's some real practical obstacles, and of course there's still some very much progress needed by physicians and hospitals and medical practices in general in bridging that IT divide. A lot of this has been addressed through the years. The University of Wisconsin-Madison has a very interesting program that combines several disciplines. They've been, since 1989, trying to develop more computer systems and networks that patients and clinicians could access in hopes that there would be more portable records and more access to information in a much more efficient manner. In 2006, there was a nice funding of a program there to develop more personal health records research, and it was funded again in 2009. So some people are working on this, including a 13-year-old organization, the Clinical Data Interchange Standards Consortium, which was founded in 1997. Anybody remember what happened in 1998? Google. So this company's been around since before Google. Their goal is to support global platform independent data standards that enable information systems interoperability. This means they want to give you patient records that you can take around with you, put on a disk, put on a flash drive, take from one doctor to the next. 32 companies have been funding this. Millions of dollars have been spent now going on 14 years to try to bring this to fruition. The biggest players in the industry, IBM, Boston Scientific, Bristol Myers Squibb, and Bristol Squibb Myers or something like that. So if they haven't done it yet, what is the holdup? If they can't do it, what are we waiting for? I've been to the website of this consortium, and there's no announcement on there that this problem has been solved. So there's a big mountain to climb here. And interestingly, at the same time, out of the consumer side of things comes Google, Microsoft, and many, many others, and they say, hey, you want medical records? I'll give you a free account. You can load them up here. So you can go to Google Health now, a couple of years old, Microsoft Health Vault, MyPHR, any number of these. Just Google the word personal health care records, and you'll find innumerable services, some free, some for low cost, where you can gather and enter your own health care data, your own health records, store it, manipulate it any way you want. The problem in some ways has already been solved. The question is, will people use this? So I asked that question. I had about a half dozen people over the last couple of weeks look at some of these products out there and spend some time on it, and we had a conclusion that I summed up in one word. This is a little bit unfair, because some people did like it. However, I would say the preponderance of opinion was one of hesitance. There's a lot of work to entering your own records online. There's some suspicion about the security of it, and there is growing suspicion, I believe unfounded, but growing suspicion nonetheless, that if the federal government is funding the same kind of effort, then somebody's going to get into your records and do something bad with them. So there's a lot of fear. There's a lot of hesitance to spend the time. There's also some very, very good remarks and grades and pluses for considering this. And frankly, one of these days when I can get to it, I'm going to go down to my primary care physician, take out my charts, and try to enter all this stuff myself just for the exercise of it, see how it goes through. But here's the point of all this. Does it matter? Is there a better system out there already? I think there is, and I submit it's probably the one that Kaiser Permanente offers to 8.6 million of its customers. 3 million of them use it, but 8.6 million of them have access to them. And that is called My Health Manager. If you go to the Kaiser Permanente website, you can log in as a member. You have to set this up, of course, in advance. And what you'll find is $4.9 billion worth of software back there. It took them 10 years to do this. By the way, that's the same cost as Denver International Airport. So it was a lot of money for Kaiser Permanente to spend, but it's in the international exchange rate, one airport. So it's not terribly costly when you look at the potential social benefits here. For 3 million patient users, 55,000 healthcare providers, over 600,000 messages are sent between patients and providers per month through My Health Manager. And over 1.5 million lab results are viewed every month by patients. You can go in to My Health Manager and see your entire health history, not only in the clinical sense, but you can see all the communications, emails back and forth to nurses, doctors, nurse practitioners, what have you. You can check your medical records going back as long as you've been a customer, at least as long as they've had this system. You can reorder your prescriptions. You can have a record of how many times you reordered those. You can schedule an appointment. You can set up email reminders. What a terrific system, and it already exists. I got to know this in my research for the capstone here at University of Denver by using my sister's login. She is actually a former Kaiser Permanente member in Georgia, retired school teacher. She had a phenomenal experience with this, and in fact, about a year ago, her system ended their usage of Kaiser Permanente. She had to move to another PPO, and she was crushed. She was ready to go to the state capitol and lobby to keep KP and My Health Manager. What I found in there was more information than perhaps one would use, and this was an example for us laymen. Ordinary annual physical lab report, 36 tests, indicators. I opened this up and looked at it, and as much as I think I know about some of the clinical and scientific parts of medicine, I was quite astounded at some of these things. So I sort of picked out a dartboard, and I threw the dart at the dartboard, and it landed on this one test, and I thought, I'm going to learn about this. Alanine aminotransferase serum. To a lot of you in the room, that's old hat. You know what that is. It threw me for a loop. It was a nice, long, complicated word. What does it mean? So, of course, I found this. Oh, yeah, organic chemistry. I took that in college. That's some carbons and some hydrogen molecules, and yeah, I kind of remember what that's all about. However, when I dug deeper, and it didn't take very long, what I found was that this is a test that's used to assess any damage to the liver. As it turns out, I take statin drugs. Hey, I had this a few years ago. My primary care doctor said, your ALAT level's a little on the high side. You ought to come back in a month. I'd forgotten about it. That's the closest I've had in my entire history, and I'm well into my AARP years, in my entire history of medical and health care, of having anything abnormal, and I barely remembered the one thing that was abnormal. Now, surely, if I had ongoing health problems, many of these levels and serum tests and so on would be of high meaning to me. But for me, it really wasn't very meaningful. So what I found was it only took a matter of seconds to find this out on the web. So once again, it's great to have all this information available to patients, but lab tests, medical records, not sure that's really the punchline here.